Hey, good afternoon, good Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the Wealth Seed. This is Lexi Johnson. I am an international speaker, financial coach, and strategist. And good to see you all. Good to see you all. We are on episode number 68, I believe. We are in the midst of a series that is helping us to get our finances organized. In fact, this is actually the finale of that series. And so today we're going to be talking about saving for our short-term and long-term goals, some strategies for saving. So I'm excited about that. We're going to talk about the importance of having short-term and long-term goals for one, then some strategies for saving. I've may mention a couple of other things that we've talked about before, like the power of compound interest. I know I talked quite a bit on that last week. So make sure you check out last week's episode if you haven't seen it. We're going to talk about aligning your goals with your priorities. And of course, I'm going to have biblical scripture references for you all because that's what we do here. We master our money God's way, right? So that we can fulfill our kingdom mandate. So if you would, let us know who you are, where you are watching from. And y'all know I can't multitask. So I need to share this to the to my Facebook group, the Money Mastery for Her Facebook group, because Facebook has done something funky now where they don't allow these streams to automatically post to your groups, which is so crazy. I don't understand it. I'm sure they have a rationale for it, but I don't understand it. So anyway, it has been shared to the group. I'm going to share it to one more group, and then we're gonna dig in. We are gonna dig in. All right. So welcome back to the podcast. Let me change up my screen over here so I can see comments from most of these places, if possible. And we are going to briefly. Last week, I believe I talked about the basics of investing. So again, if you missed that podcast, go back and check it out. We talked about the power of compound interest. We talked about, I'm not sure if we talked about, oh my goodness, I can't even think of it just flew my mind, but investing like, a certain amount consistently so that over time it grows. But anyway, go back and check that out. Let's get into today's topic. Okay. So let's talk about why it's important to save for specific goals. All right. So oftentimes you could be talking about having an emergency fund. That was one of the topics as well. If you follow me regularly, you'll also hear me talk about having an opportunity fund, right? That is important. What is an opportunity fund? It is money that you set aside for opportunities. Usually what happens is some kind of great opportunity will come our way, whether it's for personal development, whether it's for investing, whatever it is, and we don't have the money for it, right? So be prepared. Have an opportunity fund. You don't know what the opportunity will be, but just living our natural course of life, there are going to be opportunities. That's the way it happens, right? So be prepared for them. So you hear me talk about those a whole lot, but today we're going to be talking about some other types of savings as well. But it's important to save because it gives you financial security, number one, and then it gives you peace of mind, right? When you miss out on an opportunity, right, you usually don't have peace of mind, at least not for that day or a couple of days, right? Because you're always like, oh my gosh, if this opportunity doesn't even cost this much, I don't even, and so you get on yourself because you don't have the funds to do it, right? So having these savings provides you some peace. It provides you some security, okay? The next thing is that it helps you to achieve or do certain things. So for example, if you love to travel, then you should have a savings that is dedicated to travel. If you like, if you know you're going to buy a home, then you should have savings dedicated to buying a home. If you are going to make any kind of huge purchase, right? I'm going to purchase a car. You should have a savings that is dedicated to that. If you love holidays, right? I know people who literally love the holidays so much, they decorate their entire homes. It's a whole thing, right? Gift giving, throwing parties for every holiday. I'm not talking about just Christmas, although if you do the Christmas thing, you should probably have a savings for Christmas as well. If you do it, we don't personally do Christmas like that. We do it differently. But again, I know people who do all the holidays, right? So whether you do one of the holidays or whether you do all of the holidays, you should have a savings for that, right? These different types of savings are going to encourage having disciplined money habits, right? And we want to be a master of our money, okay? We don't want to just be willy-nilly everywhere. And then we're not understanding why we don't have the money we need when we need to have it and all of that, right? So having these different types of savings will help you. Now, how do you know whether you need these savings or not? Again, it's going to be based on your goals. What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? Okay. And then you're going to look at those and you may need to set up a savings for it. So Proverbs 21:5 says that the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. And I know this is a scripture that I may have done 2 times before already in these episodes, but it is so the truth, right? That we need to be making plans, okay? And yes, we need to always make room for the Holy Spirit and what God wants to do and direct us to do. But in his word, he does direct us to make some plans. I'm saying that because there are people out there who really feel like, oh, you shouldn't make any plans because you should just wait around for God to, tell you what's what. Let me shut that off so we won't hear those notifications. So you shouldn't make any plans because you should wait around for God to tell you, what's what. And that's not the case. Right? That is not the case. Look, y'all just realized I'm streaming on the wrong thing on YouTube, on the wrong channel. Oh, well, I'll have to put this up on YouTube later. Yeah. What your short-term goals are, what your long-term goals are, we should plan. That's what the word of the Lord tells us to do, is to plan diligently. Why? Because it leads to profit. Okay. If you are a kingdom citizen, you say you are a believer of the word, then you need to combine your faith with your belief, because remember, faith is not just something you say, it's the action. Okay. And the action here is to plan. Okay. And to be diligent, because the plans of the diligent lead to profit. Okay. That is what that means. I'm wondering, it's got me so messed up, y'all, that I did not put this properly up on YouTube. I'm wondering if I can share it from my one platform to another. Anyway, let me not get distracted with that. All right. So now let's talk about the difference between short-term and long-term goals. The short-term goal, when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, it's anywhere from 1 to 3 years, 1 to 5 years at the most. Okay. So again, this could be for vacationing, for purchasing a car or some other big ticket thing, for holidays, for, I said vacation already, or travel, but just things that you want to do that's going to cost significantly in their short term, things that you want to do within 3 to 5 years. Okay. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. All right. That is a short-term goal. A long-term goal is something that is beyond 5 years. Okay. So I usually say 5 years and up, or 7 years and up. That is long-term. So now we're talking about maybe your children's education. We're talking about retirement. We're talking about even a home purchase could be down the line, or like a lot of your legacy goals are long-term, right? What you want to leave behind for your children and your children's children. These can be long-term goals. Now, when you're setting these goals, it is very, very important that you're not just saying, I'm going to purchase a car in 2 years. That is not an adequate goal. A good goal will say, you're purchasing a car in 2 years. It's going to be this kind of car. It may not be down to the make and model, although you might have that, But you probably would know if you want a sedan, if you want a crossover, if you want a truck, if you want you know what, a van, you would know those things, right? So be as specific as you can. Okay, so not just a car, but I want to purchase a van, I want to purchase a sports car in 2 years in the amount of. Okay, do some research. Okay, this is what these cars are running. Don't forget about inflation. Okay, it may go up in the next couple of years, but put a number to it. Okay, learn how to set good goals, because you cannot achieve the goals if you don't have good goals, if the way you set them are not good in the first place. Okay, when you set a goal that is good, some people subscribe to SMART goals. I subscribe to dumb goals. You can do your research on the difference between the two, pick whichever one you like. But when you set goals in that way, now you allow your brain to get to work on how to make it happen. Okay. But when you just say, oh, I'm going to purchase a car in a couple of years, your brain is not at all encouraged on how to make that happen. And nor can you put together action steps, right? Because setting the goal is not enough. Once the goal is set, now you've got to put action steps. So you may, have to look at it and say, okay, I want to purchase this car. It's a $25,000 car. And so I need a down payment of $8,000, or I want to put down a down payment of $5,000. So that means I need to save, $300 a month, $400 a month, $500 a month, whatever, according to your ability, right? All of this needs to be included in that. But the how much you're going to save per month, how many months it will take, that's all a part of the action step that is in alignment with that goal. Okay. Same thing for leaving a legacy for your children. So for example, I want each child to have a piece of land. Okay. Before I leave here, I want each of my children to have a piece of land, right? So I have to have some action steps, right? When do I start purchasing the land for each one? I'll purchase the land for this one and this year, this one and this year, this one, whatever, however it's set out, right? But I need to be very specific. I need to have looked at some amounts. And then there are things that I need to be doing right now today, right? I need to start putting things up. Did I open a savings? Maybe it's a savings for each child, a separate one, and I'm putting money in there, right? These are action steps that I need to take. Okay. Open up the savings for each child, put so much per month in there, right? Continue to research land. Where do I want the land? All of these things are all very, these are all things that are part of setting good goals so that you can put the action steps in place that are in alignment with those goals. Okay. All right. Luke chapter 14, 28-30 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. It is important that we plan. It is important that we prepare. It is important that we sit and we count the costs, that we set the goals, and we have the right action steps that go with those goals so that we can accomplish what we set out to do. Okay. It is nothing. I mean, we see it all the time. I think I've mentioned this before too, where people begin things, but they don't finish because they hadn't sat down and really thought it all through. They didn't really set the goals right. And if you don't set the goals right, then the action steps are not going to be right. Okay. So count the costs. All right. So now let's talk about some strategies for saving. We already talked about setting specific measurable goals. Okay. You cannot save effectively if you don't have specific goals in place. You're going to define the amount that you need and the time frame needed for that particular thing. You're going to create, these are some things that I've said before, but I want to pull them out so that you can understand that they're strategies. You're going to create a separate savings account. Okay. Open dedicated accounts for your different goals. There's no commingling of funds, none of that. And you can't look and be like, oh, my money went to this. You know what I'm saying? No. Okay. You got a dedicated fund. Don't mess with that dedicated fund, and leave it at that. Okay. All right. Monitor and adjust regularly. Now, every week that I come before you all, I keep telling you all that finances is not something that you can set and forget. You can put things on automatic, but you still need to monitor it regularly. You still need to, just in case you need to make some adjustments, right? You're going to review your savings progress, and you're going to make the adjustments as needed, adjustments to your contributions. Sometimes you're going to find you can give more for a moment in time. Sometimes you're going to find that you may have to scale back for a moment in time because of some other things that are going on. You're not quitting, but you may have to scale back, right? So we monitor and adjust. Finances, you never just set and forget, okay? Hey, Brother Maycock, good to see you. And so there's one more thing that I wanted to say about strategies for saving, which is most of the types of savings that I'm talking about today. Saving for traveling, if you love to travel, saving for buying a home, saving for purchasing a car, or some other big ticket item, saving for whatever. These types of savings, you're not going to go put them in, an investment that locks up for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, right? These are short-term things. So at minimum, what you want to do is to put them in a high yield savings account. Not a regular savings account, okay? A high yield savings account at minimum, okay? Last week I talked about the rule of 72, okay? If you missed that, make sure you go back and get it. But what we learned is the higher the interest rate, the faster your money doubles, right? Now, we know we're not getting any high interest rates on these bank accounts, savings at all, whether it's a regular savings or whether it's a high yield, but a high yield savings is definitely better than a regular savings account. Regular savings account, we're talking about 0.01 to about 0.08, okay? In a high yield savings account, depending on the bank, could be anywhere from 2, I've seen as high as 4.5, okay? So do your research, right? Choose a bank that has a decent high yield return, okay? And then there are also other things that you can, put savings in that may yield you even more, just depending on how things are going, right? So you've got utility bonds, you've got municipal bonds that you can do, and then you've got some other, low risk, very low risk type things that you can do. Places you can put your savings so that you can, get some decent return. Because here's what's happening when you just put in a regular savings account and say it's something that you don't want to do for 3 years. I mean, inflation, you want to put it in something that's going to keep up with inflation. And so 0.01 to 0.08% is not keeping up with inflation at all. Nowhere near. Now, don't get me wrong. Neither is the high yield savings at this point, right? You get a high yield at 3.5% or 4%, 2%. It's not keeping up with inflation either, but it is better than a 0.01 to 0.08, because what you are doing is you are losing spending power when you put it someplace that is not gaining much of anything at all. Okay. Hey, Pastor TK, good to see you. All right. So Proverbs 13:11 says, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. We have got to stop looking for some type of overnight, I want to turn this 100 into 5 million overnight. Okay, listen, now don't get me wrong. There are some things out there that you can do. You can be a transactional lender and make interest on your money in 24 hours. You can do that. But also, it typically takes more than a few $100, okay, to do that. or a little bit more than a few $1,000 to do that. Okay, so you've got to start where you can start. And we can't be looking for these overnight things. This is how some of us get caught up in a lot of various different scams and all of that, because we want something yesterday. Okay, so we have to learn that things happen little by little. Okay, little by little, little by little. But before you know it, honestly, you'll have it. Okay, all right. So consistent, honest efforts in your saving. Trust in the gradual growth. Okay, trust in it. Okay, all right. So here are some actionable tips that I want to give to you all. And so, one, write down your short-term goals. Write down your long-term goals. I already talked about how to make sure that you are writing good goals. Okay, especially when it comes to finances, there should be some figures in there. There should be some dollar amounts in there. It should never just be, I want to purchase a car. That has something to do with finances. Where's the dollar amount in that goal? Okay, in that goal. Anyway, write down your short-term, long-term financial goals. Specify the amount that's needed, and then also specify the time frame. Okay, so when you do that, now you can put a plan together, some action steps together, which is actionable tip number 2. Determine how much you're going to save each month or each paycheck or whatever for that particular goal. And then you're going to set up separate savings accounts for the different goals. Okay. I'm literally saying some things that I've already said here, but I want to pull them out so that you are very clear on what the actionable steps are. Okay. So list your goals, create a savings plan. Number 3, you can automate it, right? When you have these different savings, you can have it set up where when you get your paycheck, you have these direct deposits into these savings accounts. I know jobs now will do, some of them will do up to 5, some of them may do up to 8 or whatever it is, so you can say, hey, a certain amount is going to this savings account, a certain amount is going to that savings account. So you can automate it, but don't just automate it and forget it. You're going to monitor your progress. Okay. So automate your savings so there's consistency. And then you're going to regularly review your progress and adjust your contributions if needed. I would recommend quarterly, okay, for these savings goals. Quarterly, I would recommend that you review, whether short-term or long-term. I recommend that you review your progress and how you're doing on a quarterly basis. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17 to 19 says this: command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Listen, the cheat code is in here, okay? Our hope is not in the money. Our hope is in God, because God is the owner of all of the resources, including the resource of money, okay? So our hope is in God. We are to be consulting God about our plans and getting wisdom for our plans and our direction, right? And then there's some other things that it says in here that we cannot deny. It says to do good, okay? To be generous. Listen, when you read the Bible and you want to be successful in terms of wealth, in terms of money, generosity is always coming up. Giving to the poor is always coming up. Okay. You should have an account. You should have a allocation or an account dedicated to giving. When I work with my clients, they have an account that is dedicated to giving, because as kingdom citizens, that is a priority. Okay. And we don't give just to get. We give because that's the way we're supposed to be as kingdom citizens. That's the culture. That's the norm in the kingdom of God. Okay. All right. Another biblical reference that I want to give you all as we sum up Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans, plural, I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Listen, if you desire to be successful financially, the Lord wants you to be successful financially. He says that He has given you the ability to create wealth. And in fact, He says that He has not one plan, but He has plans, plural, with an S. Plans for you to do what? Plans to prosper you, plans not to harm you, okay? Plans to give you a future and a hope. And yes, this is not just talking about money, but it's talking about everything that concerns you, okay? Including money. All right. So we can be assured that God has good plans for us in every area of our lives. We can be assured that God desires us to have a good future, right? We can be assured that aligning our goals, right, with these plans, right, will help us to be successful in that way. So I want to take a moment and just real quickly, again, just kind of wrap up what we, or give a summary of what we talked about. We talked about the importance of saving for your goals, just the importance of saving, period. We talked about the difference between short-term and long-term goals. We talked about strategies for saving. And then we talked about, I gave you all some actionable tips, some things that you can begin doing right now, today. You don't have to wait. It don't matter whether you have $2 or whether you have $200,000. You have actionable steps and things that you can do right now, today. Okay. So I hope that this episode on saving has been good. And that you are walking away, well, you should be walking away with some things to do, right? Remember, you can find me on all social media at the Lexi Johnson, except for YouTube, where it's at Money Mastery, the number 4, her 54. Okay, you can find us there. I want you also to join our Patreon. Okay, join our Patreon community. Right now, you can join for as low as $5 per month. What are we doing in there? We are a community. We're going to be holding one another accountable. You're going to be you hear me talking about how I work with my clients all the time. This is a way for you to work with me. You may not have the $10,000 that it takes to work with me one-on-one throughout the year. It's a 12-month program. You may not have that, and that's okay. But you can do $5 a month, right? And when you do that $5 a month, you can be held accountable. You can have access to some of the same resources, tools that my clients are using, our special personal budget sheet set up in the way that we allocate, the way I teach allocating and budgeting, strategies for eliminating debt. We've got tools for that, where you can just, get in there. It's so easy. Do it yourself. The spreadsheet is all the formulas, everything is already calculated. You just need to enter your information and it's done for you. So we have that. We also we're going to have it where we are going to have special guest speakers coming and talking on a monthly basis. And so you want to be in that community. Okay. You don't want to be one of these people, still acting like you don't have access, because you do. You have access. Okay. And so I'm not asking you for $10K, $5 a month. That's up until July 30th. Okay. July 30th is our official kickoff. And then those prices are going to change. All right. So some of you have been waiting for something that you can do, because even maybe the class, I have an online class that's about a little over $300. And some of you are like, I can't even do that. So you got the Patreon community now where you can go and you can join for $5 a month. Okay. At minimum, $5 a month. You can do that. The link to the Patreon is in the description, okay, or in the show notes. So click on it, get in there. Don't wait till July 30th. Get in there now. Kickoff is July 30th. And then July 31st, those prices go up. So make sure you get in. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. And then next week, we'll be starting a different a different series. It's going to be a series on income and expenses, but just pay attention to the social media posts and all that. You're going to get the information about that, and then just come back and join us next Thursday. Oh, and I want to say, I know that my times on Thursdays have been all over the place, right? But I have my grandson. He will be going back home in August. So I think about the second week of August or the third week of August, I'll be back to my normal time. I hope back to my normal time at 12 noon. Okay. But thank you for being patient with me and for tuning in when you can. Share this broadcast out. Remember to, if you're watching on YouTube, to subscribe, right? Subscribe and share. Love you guys. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.